Anyway, I did spend 35 years in banking, so that's sort of the background that I bring to probably what you don't want to hear, which is how hard it is to get a bank loan. But I'd like to start before figuring out how to finance your business, but start with the very basics of how you want to set up a business and what the right steps are. Because what we find is that a lot of people that want to start a business sort of do the business and then they figure out the infrastructure. So the first thing that you should do when you want to start a business is figure out what your corporate structure is going to be, because that will impact the kind of financing you can get down the road. So do you want to be a C corporation, which is a very traditional kind of business? Do you want to be an S corp or an LLC, which are pass-through businesses? And the one I really discourage is the sole proprietor, because a lot of startups are John Doe trading as or doing business as whatever your company name is, and the challenge that you have with that is that you have no corporate shield protecting you from any personal liability. So it also will impact your ability to raise money down the road. So I always start with figure out what your corporate structure is going to be first. My advice about business plans is they need to be short, sweet, and to the point. There's no point in doing a 35-page business plan. Nobody's going to read it. But there are certain elements that every business plan should have, and it's important to have one whether you're raising money with friends and family or a bank. It's important to have these elements. I like to make sure you have an executive summary, and the advice I give is that should be the last thing you put together. You need to do a market analysis or competitive analysis. The other thing I find when I talk to entrepreneurs is, what makes you different? Who's your competition? What's your niche? And a lot of times they can't answer that. They know what their business is, but they can't really tell you who their competitors are and why they're different. So that has to be part of your business plan, is what makes you unique and different. And then the strategy around that. So if you're different, if you're a private chef and you're doing vegan food, that's your niche. How are you going to market that? Who are you going to market it to? What website should you be on if that's your niche for private chef, a private chef business? And then, of course, you have to have a financial projection, and it has to be realistic. The last thing you want to do is put together a financial plan where you're making money the first year, because, quite honestly, very few businesses do. Be very realistic about all of your expenses. People forget about things like web maintenance and hosting and all of these little expenses that add up. You have to be very realistic, and then you should project out really no more than 3 years, because it becomes ridiculous at that point. But you should do some sort of projection. And if you're asking people for money, you need to include a sources and uses of funds. So if you're going to go ask somebody for $10,000 to start your business, you better be pretty specific about what you're going to use the $10,000 for. And then you should include a biography. It should be you, your background, and if you have advisors like other entrepreneurs or accountants that you're using and they're helping you, include their background. It really gives you a lot of credential that you're not there on your own. So when you go to get money, people say, okay, they may not know, they know their business, but they don't know business, but they have these 3 advisors on a board they're helping. So include all those biographies. Then you have to create your infrastructure, and this is where, as a banker, it really just annoys me when people don't set up their accounting right off the bat. Sometimes they wait until the end of the year, they take out all of their papers that are in a box and try to put it together for their taxes, and it just drives me crazy. So, day one, you need to have some sort of accounting infrastructure, whether it's off the web, you can buy QuickBooks or anything, but just start day one counting everything, every dollar of revenue, every dollar of expense. You have to make sure you have all the necessary licenses and permits to do business in whatever state you're doing business in. I usually advise that along with that you do hire a lawyer, because they can help you with what's required in the state you're doing business, and they can also help you with your first contracts. Which if you're doing business to business, you're going to have a contract. And yes, you can get one off the shelf with legal aid, whatever. But it really does help if you're going to pay just not that much money to have a lawyer look over what you're doing. And then you're going to have to create your own sort of personal financial statement where you're going to have to list all of your personal assets and all of your liabilities, because people are going to want to make sure you have some skin in the game. They want to see what your wherewithal is, what is your personal net worth, that sort of thing. And then I really encourage people to prepare a personal budget. Amanda and I do these workshops where a lot of these entrepreneurs come in and say, oh, I made $50,000 last year on my at-home business. And we're like, well, how much did you pay yourself? Nothing. So they didn't really make any money because they haven't figured out how much money they have to make to sustain their personal monthly expenses. So that's like one of the first things you should do is, what's my mortgage, what's my insurance, what's my car insurance, what are my utility bills, what do I have to cover? And then that's how much money you should be putting in your financial statements you did for your business plan as part of your salary expenses. The first place that most companies, startups get their money is credit cards. And you have to be kind of smart about that because not all credit cards are the same. I did a little research before I did the one at Walter Reed, and American Express actually has a business credit card that offers up to 15 months of zero interest. There's one or two others that offer zero interest. You want to find the cards that offer zero interest for at least 12 months. But just make sure if you're going to use the credit cards that you're going to be able to pay them at the end of that period. But something like 60% of all businesses use credit cards as startup financing. The thing you want to do is you don't want to deplete all your personal resources. I mean, I know from talking to a lot of vets, when they're wounded, they get a big sum of money up front, and they want to use that to start their business. I recommend they always keep at least 30 to 40% of that cash. They shouldn't deplete every dollar that you have to start your business. So then you go to friends and family. And friends and family don't have to be your friends and your family, but they can be friends and family of your friends. And when you ask friends and family for money, you really have to be very structured about it. You just don't go to a party and say, hey, will you give me $20,000 for my business? You really have to have you have to have an offering memorandum. Just like if you were going out and raising money through a public offering, you should have some sort of mini offering memorandum that explains what your business is, how risky it is, and be very clear in there that they have the ability to lose all of their money. Because when you're starting a business, that's a huge risk. You should at least provide them semi-annual, if not quarterly, updates of what the business is doing, your financials, what some of your challenges have been. Because a lot of your friends and family, since they have a financial vested interest in your business, if you come across a challenge, they can maybe help you with that. So that's one of the benefits of having friends and family, is that you can leverage their connections as well.